Welcome, everyone. Let's just give folks a few more minutes. Let's wait 10 seconds maybe for folks to join the room. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening, good morning from all over the world. So today, this seminar will be going through how to develop your project locally with VS Code. And so VS Code, basically Visual Studio Code, it's a lightweight source code editor that you will normally edit source code. And this Visual Studio Code is available on multiple platforms, like on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And in the past, in this semester, right, over the past few months, and students have been using code spaces. And before we actually dive into how to develop your project locally using Visual Studio Code, let's quickly just go through what's happening behind the scenes when you are using code spaces. So in the context of the code spaces, the VS Code editor is actually running on a Linux machine, virtual machine managed by Microsoft and sitting remotely in the cloud. And these code spaces provide a cloud-based development environment, and users generally work with this environment in a browser-based editor. So this page probably familiar with most of you, right? Most of you probably familiar with this page whenever you open your code spaces. And what it is happening is actually the remote Linux machine is actually launching and provisioning an environment for your code space. It is where all the compute associated with the software development happens. For example, like compiling, debugging, restoring, etc. And at a high level view, the code spaces environment provided by CS50 comes with the software package such as Python, Node.js, SQLite, HTTP server, and some CS50 C library that you will need to use it to successfully complete your problem sets. And once the code space, the Linux machine launched, once you're in, the code space automatically configures everything you need to work with your problem set. The runtime environment, the compiler, the debugger, editor, custom user settings, and relevant editor extension, and more. So in a nutshell, to recap, when running VS Code on code spaces, it is running in a Linux operating system. There's a many pre-installed package that we already configured for you, but the most important software package are the Python library, the Node.js library, the HTTP server software, the Flask, and SQLite. Now, what happened when it comes to Mac if you want to use VS Code on your Mac OS? So similarly, you will want to have the Python library installed on your Mac. You will want your Node.js environment configured on your Mac. You will also want to install HTTP server, Flask, and SQLite. All these software package also available on Mac. And once you have all these software package installed and configured properly, you can also continue develop on your Mac locally without using VS Code. So first, of course, to run VS Code on your Mac, you need to install VS Code. Let's actually just do that. To install VS Code, right? Normally, you can just Google search Visual Studio Code, and usually the first result pops up. And the website detected that you are on a Mac, and it will prompt you to install install the VS Code on your Mac. You can just click download. And unzip it. So these are the VS Code software you are going to use on your Mac. And usually we just drag it to your application folder to finish the installation process. Okay, so let's actually launch VS Code. So now this is the VS Code running on your Mac. As you can see, the interface is pretty similar to what you will see on a CodeSpace environment. You got the File Explorer on the left, you got your terminal in the bottom, and the editor on the center. Now, first, let's go through the package installation process, starting with Python. So if you go to python.org and head over to download, similarly, you can also download a Mac OS version of Python and install it on your computer. Just gonna double click on this. And usually the installation will take a while, but it should be very straightforward. The installation will take about a few minutes. And again, because these are all pre-configured on the code space, that's why each time you launch your code space, it doesn't take that long because all the software is already pre-installed on the code space. But on your Mac locally, you will need to do this manually. But this is like a one-time installation. So to verify your Python has been installed successfully on your Mac, you will just go to your VS Code terminal and type Python 3. And it will launch a Python shell. And as you can see, if I zoom in, you can see it's Python 3.1.0, the version we just installed. So now that you have the Python environment installed on your Mac, you can start actually coding some Python script. But we will just continue moving on to install other software package. The next one is Node.js. So this one is a Node.js runtime that required by the HTTP server. So in order to use HTTP server, we will need to first install Node.js. And after installing Node.js, besides installing HTTP server, you can also discover many other Node.js package on the internet that you can install. Let's just do that. So again, similarly, like user can search Node.js on Google. And you will want to download the latest long-term supported version for the Node.js one. And again, after installation, you can type node-v to verify the Node.js runtime has been installed successfully on your Mac. So once we install the Node.js runtime, we can go ahead and install the HTTP server. So the HTTP server is actually a Node application that serves your local directory, just so you can view the web page, view all the web content locally on your Mac without needing to connecting to the internet. This is actually very useful to help developing web application on your Mac locally. So usually people will search npm. npm is just a node package registry, and you will find HTTP server here. And to install the HTTP server, we actually need to run a command on the terminal. So npm install is actually the way you install a package. You can npm install VSC for example, if you want to develop a VS Code extension, you can install that package. But right now we are installing the HTTP server package. And so that's why I'm typing npm install -g HTTP server. -g means you want to install this package globally so that you can run this command anywhere on your Mac. And usually once the installation is finished, usually you will find there's no error message at all. It means your HTTP server has been installed successfully. Now, let's actually get a demo on how we can serve the homepage problem set on your Mac locally. I'm gonna git clone the homepage problem set. I'm gonna cd into homepage, clear the browser. So now I'm in the homepage, right? I want to view this index.html file on a browser. How can I do that? So similarly, you will type HTTP server. So on code basis, the HTTP server is actually a wrapper that we wrote that we simplify many arguments. So if I'm typing HTTP server right now and hit enter, it will actually spawn a server and running on port 8080 on my Mac address. And I can actually open this. As you can see, the homepage has been served here, hello homepage. And I can, so this is how you start developing a web project on your Mac locally. Right now, I'm not connecting to CodeSpace at all. This IP address is simply just my address. It's a reserved IP address and a private IP address that's running on my Mac. And I can go ahead and update my web page. Hello world, and we can change the title to VS Code Seminar. Let's go back to here and then refresh the browser. And as you can see, the content has been updated. So this is all happening within my Mac. All right, let's stop the server by hitting Control-C. So next one, the SQLite 3. And so next one is the SQLite 3, which is a database viewer. If right now, so if we want to demo this, I'm gonna use the finance problem set as an example. Okay. So there's a finance.db file on my File Explorer, and I want to view it, right? If I type SQLite 3 and finance, right now it's running on my Mac, and I'm able to view it. But to install it, your Mac, your Mac doesn't come with SQLite initially. So to install it, we also need to download this SQLite software and install it on our Mac. And to do it, let's actually go to SQLite 3's website. And sometimes this software distribution is kind of messy. As you can see, SQLite is actually supported by many operating systems, but we only care about Mac OS right now. So I'm just gonna quickly search Mac and find this package. I'm gonna unzip it. So as you can see, after you're unzipping the file, it has 3 binary. that you can execute actually, but this is the one we want to install on our Mac. And this one, the installation process for this one is actually a little bit complicated, but not that difficult. Let me explain why. So right now, I already pre-installed SQLite. And I can ask Mac, where is the SQLite get installed? And Mac tells me SQLite is installed under this directory. It's in usr bin/bin/SQLite3. So the installation process is literally copy the SQLite3 to the correct directory. And to do it, you want to locate your software package. You will want to copy this software to the correct location. This one. And since I already installed it, I will probably get an overwritten like prompt. So I mean, once you copy your SQLite3 library into your user bin directory, Mac will be able to search this software when you're trying to launch, because there's a path environment variable on Mac as well. And I can also display, because Mac, whenever you type a SQLite3 command, your Mac will search all these locations and find that package. And because since we copy paste the SQLite3 software into that location, your Mac will be able to find it. And that's how you type the SQLite3 command and launch the database viewer. We can go back to our example. And run SQLite3 finance.db. And we are now open finance.db. And to view the schema, just to verify we are able to view this database, I'm just gonna type .schema, and you can see we are able to actually view the finance.db on your Mac. And lastly, you want to run a more elaborate like HTTP server, such as Flask server, right? When we are doing the finance problem set, you want to run Flask run so that you can launch your application. And we need to install the Flask Python library in this scenario. So to do that, I'm going to type pip3 install Flask. This is how you install a Python package. There's a different than installing a Node package. To install Flask, I'm just going to hit enter and run this command. And as you can see, if you don't see any error message, it means your Flask package has been successfully installed on your Mac. And to launch your finance web app, you will type Flask run. And usually students will have a mistake because they forget to put the environment variable there. Stand by. Yeah. Usually, this is actually a good teaching moment. So since I never installed Flask on my Mac before, after installation, my terminal actually did not know about it. So what I did was I quit my terminal and then relaunch it again so that my terminal knows all the newly installed package. So right now I can just run Flask run. But before I do that, because the finance problems that require us to specify an API key, I'm just gonna do it quickly. I'm just randomly typing my token here. And Carter, do you know why I'm getting this import error?
So I think you installed Flask with Python, right?
Yes.
And the finance piece set also relies on a package called flask_session. So I think we need to pip install that one. And then there's also another library called the CS50 Python library we could probably talk about too.
All right, thank you, very good. So another teaching moment, right? CS on the code space, we also install a Python CS50 library for you already, but on your Mac, of course, Mac doesn't come with CS50's Python library. You also need to install that. I'm gonna type pip install lib50. But I think there's another problem here actually, but we will see if it goes well. All right, I'm gonna run Flask run again. So I'm getting this error. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna try. I will explain later after typing this.
I think we also need the CS50 Python library, because I think you did lib50, but I think it's pip install CS50 is one of the packages as well.
Okay, let's try that. That might be it. Let's try. All right, thanks, Carter.
Yeah.
So through all these steps of process, you see, as a novel programmer myself, right? If I'm going to develop my software locally on the Mac, I will have to go through all these steps to provision my environment. And this is the truth. Like we really need to properly or correctly provision our environment before we can start development. And that's why usually when you develop your software locally, you have to go through so much pain before you actually start writing your code. And that's why code spaces exist, and we CS50 pre-provision the environment for you. But again, right now, as you can see, after consulting with Carter, after some Googling and some trial and error, I was able to successfully launch the Flask server eventually. And similarly, this is running on port 5000 this time. It's a Flask web app, and it's running on my Mac IP address as well. And right now, I can see the finance distribution codes already being served on port 5000. And right now, this is actually, and the remaining steps actually similar, right? You move on to finish implement all the routes, and this all happens on your Mac locally. It's not happening on CodeSpace again. For example, if keep the register route, I will get 400. I haven't implemented it. And as you can see, your terminal will also get all those debug outputs similar to what you would get on a CodeSpace environment. So after talking about provisioning your environment, next I'm just gonna briefly mention what else you can do with VS Code running on your Mac locally. For example, you can install many extensions from the Microsoft VS Code Market. You can install, for example, I want to change my theme. How can I do that? I can install a GitHub theme that I usually use. I'll just search it. I install it. My VS Code theme get updated immediately, but I can change to the other theme. There's more you can discover yourself. You can keep exploring the extension you want. But again, at the end of the day, VS Code is just a VS Code is just a source code editor. It's just like a more fancier version of a plain text editor, really. And all this extensibility provided by CS Code is always available on both CodeSpace and your Mac. So your editing experience won't change much regardless which platform you are using. And the reason why you might want to do it locally is because sometimes you don't have reliable internet connection. Sometimes you just want to develop your secret project locally. You don't want it to live on the internet. That's another reason to do it. But yeah, again, and also you have more flexibility, to be honest, because this is your own Mac, your own laptop. You can do whatever you want. You can provision the environment however you want. And you can, that's why, I mean, that's how you can further customize your development experience on your Mac. And that's many other reasons why you want to do it locally. And sometimes gives CodeSpace might suffer some outage. You don't have CodeSpace available, but you can always open your Mac and continue coding there. Yeah, and with that, I think this concludes all the required steps to set out your environment to develop your project locally with VS Code on Mac. I hope this walkthrough and seminar is helpful for you. And I think we have some more time to open for Q&A. If anyone have question, please raise your hand or ask question on the chat. I can answer.
Rangshin, we had a question about, are there steps we could like look at to install Flask? Like, does Flask have documentation of how to install itself and so on? Where would we look for that?
Oh, yes, good question. So again, I'm a good fan of Google search. So I will just search Flask documentation. And so here is the Flask official website. It has a pretty substantial like documentation on how to install Flask and how you can develop your web application using the Flask library as well. So here you will find all the necessary documentation you need. And specifically regarding the installation, it has, yeah, like Mac, how you can install Flask on Mac or Windows. It has all the documentation. Yeah, this website will be the one you want to look for. I'm going to send it to everybody.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Rangshin, I think some of those first steps, like the environment things, are somewhat optional, and like the core part is that install Flask sort of lower there, like the pip install Flask and so on. It's like nice to have a contained environment where you can like have your own packages, but I think the core piece of installing Flask is like that second piece later down the page. Is that right?
Oh yes, the pip install is actually the actual installation part. Yes, correct. So here, the create an environment and activate an environment, that's something else. So you can also have multiple environment on a platform. You can switch between when you are between development project, you want different dependencies. These are neat things to have, but it's not required to install Flask. And the only place you want to pay attention to is the install Flask section.
And another question that we got, if we can sort of move on from this one, is how would we use Git on VS Code? Is there anything different about using Git like locally versus how you would use it in code spaces? Just how would we use Git sort of through VS Code?
Sure, good question. Actually, so let me actually demonstrate it real quick. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just gonna remove all the cloned repository from my demo folder right now, and I can go through the clone process. So on on code spaces, right? Especially on the CS50 code spaces, since we want to simplify all these Git commands, all this Git clone, Git push, Git commit step for students, we actually write a wrapper software called Submit50. And underneath the hood Submit50, if you are familiar with this, underneath the hood is actually running a bunch of Git commands for you to submit your homework. And you will also familiar with Get50, which is a Git clone command underneath the hood. On your Mac, because your Mac doesn't have Get50 and Submit50, if you want to get a distribution code, let's say the home page assignment, on your Mac, you will want to type git clone and paste the assignment URL. And Git is actually a common software that is already pre-installed on Mac. But usually when you first time launching Git, it will pops up, Xcode will pops up saying you want to install some package. You just click install the required command line package and you will be able to use Git. So Git is actually pre-installed on Mac. And the command, like I just mentioned, is git clone to get a distribution code.
And we also just finished up a seminar on Git and using that for collaboration and version control. So on the course website, on the seminars page, there is a recording of a seminar on how to use Git that sort of goes in much more depth as well.